Hi everybody. I'm going to try to show you how you can get your portfolio to work. Now, what you can see in front of you right now on the desktop here are a bunch of folders. There's Artists, FBN, Lesson 09, Satellite, Sag1, a bunch of others. Sound familiar, right? So these are representing the kind of work we've done on our Saturdays together and some of the homework you've done, the Lesson 05, the Lesson 09 here. And so I've got them just sitting together in a group. So I kind of figure somewhere in your possession, maybe on a thumb drive, maybe on your home computer, whatever, you've got these things. And let's say you've got Dreamweaver 2, and you're going to try to get your portfolio to work at last. So I've got Dreamweaver running, and I'm going to define a site in a minute. But the key idea here is that all of these things should be gathered together into one folder first. And so I'm going to make a new folder. Now, you may or may not know this. It's pretty simple. If I right-click on the desktop and choose New Folder, I've obviously got a new folder. Now I'm going to call it Portfolio, but it doesn't really matter what I call it very much. All it needs to do is hold all of these guys. So I'm going to do this little thing here. Now you could do this one by one, but I'm just going to click and drag over the top of these guys to round them up, and I'm going to pull them right into the portfolio folder. See? And if you had any doubts about it, there they are. They're right in there. Now, Dreamweaver's running, but there's no site defined. And remember, this is critical, you guys. So, site, new site. I'll just call it port 3, because I think I've got a couple of others here. And I'll pick very carefully the folder on the desktop called Portfolio, and I'll select it. Now, of course, that's not enough. I've got to go to Servers over here to the left, and I click this little black plus sign, and the server name is pretty much irrelevant. I'm not going to worry about it, but I'm going to leave that text up there that says unnamed server 2. The FTP address, you remember? edison.seattlecentral.edu. Your username. Well, my username, actually. And fortunately, you can't see my password as I type it. And let's see if I typed it correctly. I'll click the test button, and it seems like I did. So now we've got two saves, right? Save, save. And this is the kind of warning you get if you define one site sort of overlapping another. Well, typically that's not a great idea, but it's nothing for us to worry about, so click OK. All right. So if you look down here in this area, you can see these are those folders that I gathered together into the portfolio folder, so they're just all waiting in there. And there's no portfolio file to link them to. So I'm going to go out on the web, access my remote site, and pull down a copy of my portfolio. So that'll go something like this. Here's this little thing, expand to show local and remote sites. Here I am in FTP mode. And this, of course, is the connection button. Now there's my stuff. Now my stuff is bound to be a little different than your stuff. I've got, some overlap, some different. And maybe you've got something like this where there aren't too many folders there yet and you've got to get some new ones up. Now this little guy is our portfolio. You obviously can't see it right now except as a name, but it's the one. And as usual, it matters very much where you drag it. So it would be a terrible idea for me to drag it into any of these folders, because they may very well have their own index file, which would be destroyed by that step. So it gets dragged here to this very top level folder off to the right. So here it goes. index, copied over, and it says should dependent files be included. I'll say yes, but frankly it's not terribly important. All it means is that the images and such for this little index file were brought along. Okay, so now there's nothing else to do in FTP mode, so I'm going to disconnect, drop back, and hopefully you can see this inside of my window here. I've got index.html, and that is my portfolio. I pop it open on screen, and there's not a lot of exciting stuff going on in here yet. I've just got a few little things linked up. Well, so let me do something else. So let's say, for example, that the one we want to do is this little folder, the one called Cafe Client. Well, it isn't absolutely necessary, but in most cases it's going to be true that there's an index file in each of these folders. Because remember, it's almost like a doorway into each of these folders. And so what makes sense is that I'm going to edit this line of text right here so that it represents the link I'm going to. So I'll say Cafe Client. And I'll just hit enter so I've got a line underneath. And I select the text, and I use our good old point-to-file device to link to index. And I can see that it's linked. There it is. Now, I could sit here and keep cranking this out, but I think I'm just going to do one more quick little example so this makes some sense. Like, here's lesson 5. And so, for example, if I wanted to link a lesson 5 homework file, I'll select that text there. And of course, I took the step of making sure that the lesson 5 files were actually present here. So let me open them up and see what I'm supposed to link to. And in all probability, it's something with the name like My Layout, right? So I'll go ahead and I'll link this text, lesson 5, right up to mylayout.html inside of the lesson 5 folder. Okay, so that's it for now. I'm not going to go through every one of these folders. I'd bore you silly. But here we go. I save my work. I once again pop into FTP mode. And now, this is kind of a strange idea, but this is the only file that was edited, right? Only this little guy right here. This is the old version over here to the left, and this is the new. So when I drag it, again, back to that highest level folder right there, I've just replaced the old version with the new. It's one of those things that happens so quietly that sometimes people don't even really think about what they're doing or what they did, and some of you know all too well what I mean by that. Now, this is good as far as it goes. It's been updated, but it's not functional yet because these two folders, this one and this one, called Cafe Client, well, they actually need to be there on that remote server if we're going to be able to find those files. So this part's actually pretty easy. I just pick up the folder in question and I drop it on that highest level folder over there, and it just starts to copy the files. If it asks me about dependencies, you know what to say. You say yes. Okay, so now my Cafe Client link would work because now they're there. Let's try the other one. Here's lesson 5. I'll drag the entire lesson 5 folder over. I'll say yes to that. Okay. And there they are. They're all there. Now, sometimes when we do this, we end up dragging along a few more files than we need. In this case, look, there's probably a whole bunch of Microsoft Word documents and stuff that really didn't need to go. They really have no reason to be there. So this is kind of a quick and dirty way to do it, and you may end up loading down your server a little more than you want to. But it does get the job done, and you need to do that. So off I go. I sign off, close out, and that's how you do it. Okay? Maybe I'll post a few more of these things. Thanks for